Battle droids were built with one purpose in mind: to kill. Quintillions were manufactured by the Separatists throughout the Clone Wars, outnumbering the Republic's clone troopers at a scale of 100 to 1. But despite their programming, a select few were able to break free. These are 3 battle droids who betrayed the Separatists. Our first story takes us to the planet Harane, where a battle rages on between the Separatists and the Republic. There we find none other than Clone Captain Rex, pinned down as battle droids close in. Help finally arrives at the last second in the form of Jedi General Obi-Wan Kenobi. The two continue to desperately cut through the attacking droids as they try to make their way to an evacuation point. As they fight through the seemingly endless waves of droids, Kenobi deflects a blaster bolt with his lightsaber, which hits a B-1 battle droid square in the forehead, where its processor is located. This caused the droid, known by the designation B-10516, to malfunction. Initially confused, the droid then came to terms with itself and began to question why so many battle droids were attacking just 2 individuals, stating that the skirmish seemed unfair. This logic convinced the droid to aid the Jedi Master and Clone Captain in fighting off the other advancing Separatist forces. Saluting his new superiors, B-10516 offered his services to the Republic, and Rex gave him the nickname Bats. As the next wave of droid reinforcements approached, the trio hatched a plan. Bats gained the attention of the droid commander, emerging from a downed AT-AP walker and lying, saying that he had captured the clone and the Jedi. The droid commander complimented Bats on his efforts, stating that the two must be brought before Count Dooku immediately. Proving his newfound allegiance, Bats quickly turned on the Separatists. Wielding a pair of E5 blaster rifles, he opened fire and destroyed several droids, providing a distraction that allowed Kenobi and Rex to escape. Despite putting up a fierce fight, Bats was soon overwhelmed and captured, being taken to a nearby Separatist garrison for analysis. But that's not where Bats' story ends. There, the commanding tactical droid suggested that Bats' original programming be restored via a memory wipe, as there were still several clone troopers on Harane that required blasting. Resisting this attempt, Bats fought off the nearby guards, utilizing the detached arm of another battle droid. The tactical droid attempted to reason with Bats, ordering him to submit to reprocessing immediately. But Bats would do no such thing, prepared to take on the whole garrison if he had to. But Obi-Wan and Rex arrived in a stolen Separatist AAT to rescue their new ally. Entering the hijacked tank, Bats and his companions quickly left the garrison and returned to the Republic evacuation point. Reuniting with Anakin Skywalker and his forces, Kenobi and Rex introduced Skywalker to Bats, suggesting they might find an undercover battle droid useful for future missions. Bats then proceeded to board a Republic gunship with his companions, pleading with Anakin to receive his very own lightsaber. But while Bats was granted free will by accident, what would happen if the Separatists themselves gave a battle droid free will? During a battle on the planet Bagoa, a single battle droid was selected for an experiment related to Order 66. Darth Sidious wished to test the willingness of a programmed being to disregard its primary protocols, and instructed his apprentice, Count Dooku, to do so with a droid. As the selected droid marched into battle, a voice whispered the words Order 99 over the droid's comm unit, which triggered a shutdown of the droid's primary systems, compelling the B-1 to ignore its orders to kill as part of the Confederate war machine. With a newfound sense of individuality, the droid decided to administer medical assistance to damaged Separatist battle droids and wounded Republic clone troopers alike. The droid gave himself the nickname Coppertop and customized his physical appearance, donning a cape and gold crest atop his head. However, Dooku ordered Asajj Ventress to recover Coppertop so that he could examine and dismantle the droid, and she set out in pursuit of him, accompanied by the renowned Chiss bounty hunter Cyril Tov. Republic forces ultimately broke through the Separatist stronghold on the planet, and in the aftermath of the battle, Coppertop came across an injured clone trooper named Gunner, bandaging up the clone's torso. As the remaining clones began to round up, Commander Cody also discovered Coppertop, assuming the droid was going to harm Gunner, aiming his blaster and ordering the droid to put his hands up. Before Cody could destroy the droid, Obi-Wan Kenobi intervened and ordered him to hold his fire, because he could sense that Coppertop was different from other battle droids. When challenged by Kenobi to explain why he was helping Gunner, Coppertop introduced himself and told the Jedi that he had overcome his primary protocols. Suspicious of Coppertop's motives, Kenobi asked the droid to accompany him back to the Republic encampment. As Coppertop, Kenobi, and the clone troopers departed, the droid told Kenobi the story of how he had broken free of his programming, but just as he completed his tale, they were confronted by Ventress and Cyril-Tov. The Dark Jedi demanded that Kenobi hand the droid over to them, as the pair proceeded to attack Kenobi and the troopers, with the Jedi ordering Coppertop to stay down. Not wanting to be the cause of any more violence, Coppertop ignored Kenobi's instruction and surrendered, handing himself over to Ventress. Determined to not be used by the Confederacy to cause any further loss of life, Coppertop decided to choose his own fate. As he was escorted away, he grabbed Cyril-Tov's deactivator pistol from the bounty hunter's belt and used it to disable himself. Now, what about a lone battle droid who ran away from a battle? This B-1 battle droid was originally constructed in a Trade Federation factory and went on to fight in numerous battles throughout the Clone Wars, but it was frequently damaged. Each time the droid was destroyed, however, it was always salvaged and returned to the factories for reconstruction. That is, until it was deployed on the green, mountainous planet of Antamont. There, the Separatists launched an attack on a Republic stronghold, sending in hordes of B-1 battle droids, B-2 grapple droids, spider droids, and hailfire droids. However, one B-1 towards the front of the Separatist offensive stepped on a Republic landmine, detonating it and sending himself sprawling through the air and down the hillside towards a river, where his head hit a rock. This severed its connection to the central control computer from which it formed thoughts and received orders. Like Bats and Coppertop, this lone battle droid was now granted free will. Upon reactivating after his fall, the droid realized this and began to question its role and reason to exist. As the droid returned to its comrades, a new directive took hold, placing the lone droid's own survival above all else. Immediately, the B-1 turned away from its fellow droids and fled down the hillside, aiming to get as far away from the battle as possible. The droid ran for several kilometers, up and down hills, until stopping at the edge of a massive cliff. With the droid's new free will came hope, as it pondered the possibility of a different life, one of its own choosing. However, the droid fleeing the combat zone did not go unnoticed, and as it thought about its future, a grapple droid arrived at the cliff edge, having trailed the B-1 from the battlefield. The grapple droid informed the B-1 that desertion was a violation of protocol, and ordered it to return to the combat zone as quickly as possible. However, the B-1 unit had no intention of complying with this directive. It tried to convince the grapple droid to think, but it was no use, and the B-1 was forced to fire at the larger droid with its blaster rifle. However, this had little effect. The grapple droid cut off half of the B-1's arm with its pinchers, and the two soon fell over the cliff edge. Both collided with the ground below, but the grapple droid got the worst of the fall, and could hardly function, just barely able to talk, as it expressed how everything was getting dark and how it felt afraid. It asked the B-1 why they could not return to command to have their batteries recharged, as they would be depleted within 2 days. The B-1 told the grapple droid that it would rather enjoy a mere 2 days of freedom than a much longer life of blind obedience and inevitable doom. The B-1 then stayed with the grapple droid for a time, as its little remaining power began to wane and it eventually shut down. Now truly alone, the B-1 found a vantage point and observed the ongoing battle, realizing it had one last chance to go back. But it turned away and continued walking until the day's end, stopping to sit against a tree as its battery eventually expired. There, the droid remained undisturbed for quite some time, until years later when it was discovered by a pair of farmers who intended to charge its battery and make use of it on their ranch. We also wanted to give a brief mention to droids like Mr. Bones, Roger, Nunzix, and ND5. Although once Separatist battle droids who went on to do greater things, we don't know the exact story of how they were able to escape the war machine and find their higher purposes. So, we'll save their stories for another day.